packed with the latest releases of brands like Topps, Panini, Leaf, and more. Looking for a specific player or team? PCB Hobby has a wide assortment of raw and graded cards. They carry parallel rookie, game used, and autographed cards in both modern and vintage. Have a collection you want to sell? We buy, sell, and trade. PCB Hobby on Back Beach Road, just east of Florida Linen. Call 850-320-8388.
Bestway Portable Buildings has been your portable building specialist since 1989. Before you invest your hard-earned money someplace else, owner Jason Mulder invites you to stop by Bestway and get a quote on just about any size building. And whether you buy with Bestway or not, it's worth the trip just to meet Bestway Buddy. Say hello, buddy. Good boy. Bestway Portable Buildings, just north of Hartz Marine on 231, and online at bestwayportablebuildings.com. The best in portable, period. Tell them Buddy sent ya.
As a realtor, it's important who you choose as your title company. May we suggest South Oak Title? Their offices are modern, comfortable, and state-of-the-art. South Oak Title can close transactions in any location in Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee. Their free mobile app allows realtors to deliver a net sheet in seconds. They provide mobile closing services to accommodate buyers and sellers. Their offices are beautifully decorated, state-of-the-art, complete, safe, and secure. South Oak Title, creating a better title and closing experience through technology and tailored service. Visit them online at southoaktitle.com.
Mid-South Lumber, where they treat you like family. Locally owned and serving the residents of Bay County for over 45 years. See Mid-South Lumber for all of your DIY projects, including windows, doors, siding, lumber, and millwork. Are you building a new home? Bring your contractor in to Mid-South Lumber and meet with a member of their sales team to discuss your framing, siding, windows, and doors. Mid-South Lumber, the biggest little lumber yard in Panama City. 717 West 11th Street.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right?
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Ooh, pass me the intercom thingy.
Attention shoppers. If you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Don't pay for water. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods.
Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe, the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the next evolution of Sports Talk Radio. The biggest stories and the biggest reactions.
Now.
And now we're taking...
With the first pick.
This is the last ball you got to bat. The Inside Drive. From college to the pros. Interviews with the newsmakers, sports betting, your phone calls, and more. And now, The Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey. Broadcasting from the Bill Kramer Chevrolet Buick GMC and Kramer Marine Outdoor Studios on ESPN Northwest Florida.
And good Tuesday morning. You're listening to The Inside Drive live here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Sitting inside the Bill Kramer Chevrolet Buick GMC and Kramer Marine and Outdoor Studios. You can listen live and local on 104.3 in Panama City Beach, 101.9 in Port St. Joe along the Forgotten Coast. You can watch and listen on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Just search ESPN Northwest Florida. And then last but not least, you can download our free mobile app that you can take anywhere. That you just got to find it in the Google Play or the Apple Store. That one you do need to put a little 104.3 in front of that ESPN Northwest Florida to make sure you find it. Got a great show lined up for us today. I think Jay had a little bit of the sniffle, so he's going to sit this one out. Hopefully he's doing okay. But DJ Davey Crockett, a.k.a. David Hayes, is going to bounce back and forth like he did last Friday from in the studio and over there behind the glass. So if you do give us a call at 850-215-6290, we can see that red light flashing. Just give us a little bit longer than normal to pick that phone up. But great show lined up. We got Doc A, as always, coming up at 11:20 Central Time this morning on this Tuesday. And then we'll be joined by Brad Law at 12:20. Excited to talk to both of those fine gentlemen. A lot of stuff went down yesterday in the NBA. A lot of points being scored. And sometimes you score 70 points, or sometimes you score 62 points, but somebody outdoes you and scores 72 points. And I think Kevin Durant even scored 43 points or something like that.
Oh, man, we had a night in the NBA then last night with the 70 and 62. Who would have thought? Karl Anthony Towns dropping 62 last night. But yeah, great evening for scoring points in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Devils got a win last night as well. Didn't make it home in time to see the end, but little 6-5 victory over those Las Vegas Knights in overtime, which is exciting. And Toffoli had himself a little hat trick, so always fun to have that action going on. I was going to wear a Devils hat. I found one, but it was a little bit too tight. It's one of those old fitted hats from back in the day, and I was going to wear it, but if you wear a hat that's just too tight, you get a little headache.
That's how this old indention in the old head right there, the old noggin.
Nice.
That's how that's there.
Oh, man. But yes, a lot of good action last night in the sports world. Still gearing up for these 2 championship games coming up this Sunday. A lot to talk about. A lot of head coaching action going on in the NFL. Some things taking shape, it seems like.
Some things to be desired.
Yes, depending on which team, which fandom you certainly live in for those teams, depending on how you feel about things. But yeah, it looks like Belichick may not be in the running for that Atlanta gig.
Really?
This is what some of the reports are kind of saying. It's starting to fizzle out a little bit, is what some are saying. But it's going to be interesting to see where all these head coaches end up shaking out.
That'll be interesting. I mean, Arthur Blank and Bill Belichick having the dinner before the second interview and everything, and all of that for naught.
Yeah,
not yet.
You never know. But the Chargers are interviewing Jim Harbaugh for a second time, according to ESPN, joining the Falcons in that camp, who have also interviewed Harbaugh twice, it seems like. So it's going to be interesting to see out.
Which roster would you rather have, Falcons or Chargers?
I think I would say Falcons. From an offensive standpoint, they're both good, but the Falcons, you still have a little bit of you can put your own mold on it with a quarterback, right?
Right.
Versus the Chargers, I think you're I don't want to say stuck with Justin Herbert, but you know what I mean. He's the quarterback there.
He's the franchise guy. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. With the Chargers, you take that job and you're in Super Bowl contention.
Yeah.
Contention, if you can get that, is more than just a roster there for the Chargers. It's that entire franchise, and I guess you can make the argument for the Falcons that they're in a position right now where it's just that quarterback away.
Yeah.
They're Kyle Shanahan away. To be quite frank with you, because you just get an offense there that you can plug and play. I think that Harbaugh would be better for the Chargers and Belichick would be better. I can't sit here and say that Belichick still has enough left in the tank to get it done. But maybe starting over with a new team, starting over with a new franchise will rejuvenate him.
You've been doing the same gig for 20-ish years, not quite 20, but you've been doing the same thing that long. That certainly sometimes a little change of scenery will light that fire again. But and the Falcons too, they're in such a terrible division. So the upside there, I think, to get into the playoffs may be a little bit easier from a head coaching standpoint versus the Chargers, who, like you said, I think they have a Super Bowl contending roster, but you've also got to compete in a division that, the Chiefs continue to win year in and year out, and, the Raiders are getting better, and the Broncos may get better. So I think your easier path, I don't know if that's the right term, your easier way to make the playoffs might be with the Falcons. I don't know. But interesting nonetheless, and we'll jump into later on in the show. Mel Kiper has officially released his what he thinks the draft order will be, as we're a few short months of getting some of the draft picks going. A lot of quarterbacks in there. Got a question for you that Steve Wiley had texted me earlier today, and he said he was going to text this last Wednesday, but obviously didn't get a chance to. He said, interesting question to ask. Which team that didn't make the playoffs this season do you think will make the playoffs next season? And conversely, which team that made the playoffs this year do you think will not be a playoff team this year? Let's start with a team that didn't make the playoffs this year. I
think there's one easy one when you're in that category.
Okay.
That's the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, they get a full season with Aaron Rodgers. I think they make the playoffs. Tough division, with the Bills and the Dolphins. You think they'll be right back where they were next year as they were this last year. But the Jets are an easy team. They're the Bengals are another team you could throw out there in that vaunted AFC North. Outside of that, I mean, the Chargers. The Chargers are probably in the AFC. The Chargers are the other team that I see here that could make the playoffs.
Jags too, I think, would be one.
Oh yeah, Jags absolutely.
Just in the division that they play in, and just kind of had an unfortunate second half of the season there, and just kind of sputtered out. And then conversely, who do you think that made it this year that you could easily see not making it next year?
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cleveland is the team that stands out to me just because if the Bengals are going to rise to prominence with Joe Burrow again next year.
And what's their quarterback situation look like, right?
Yeah, with the Cleveland. I mean, you have to trot Deshaun Watson out there just because of the money side of things. But that's and they're talking about bringing Flacco back. So then that also, are you going to carry 4 guys and PJ Walker, DTR, and Deshaun Watson and Joe Flacco? So that could open up an opportunity for DTR. Even though if I'm the Browns, who do I stick with out of DTR and out of PJ Walker? But I think the Browns got to go with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I mean you've invested so much guaranteed money in him, it'd kind of be like silly not to. But at
plus,
the same time,
it's a lot of fun watching. Not a lot of fun, but it's just kind of like this is what you get for giving a guy a fully guaranteed contract. Without it would be different if Tom Brady got a contract that was fully guaranteed, or if Patrick Mahomes' contract is fully, like those guys, we're talking about guys who are, exactly. But because you were 0-4 with the Houston Texans in the divisional round, maybe not all of those losses are on him, but they never got out of the divisional round with Deshaun Watson. Why is that going to change with Cleveland when it's basically the same exact setup with a really good defense and a decent run game? Now, the Browns would have been better off this year had they had Nick Chubb, but that still does not have Deshaun Watson in that equation.
No, absolutely not.
So it is fun to not fun again, but just watching how all of this is playing out. I think a lot of the other quarterbacks kind of got to be disappointed to some extent. It's like, well, we know we're not getting those fully guaranteed contracts anymore.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's where, I think you nailed it. When you start giving out some of these contracts on not actual, concrete things you've done and merit and just on potential, that's where you get into trouble, because all it takes is one injury. And he had a shoulder injury, right? And ended up having season-ending shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. But on the NFC side, some of the teams that I think made the playoffs that you can easily see not making the playoffs next year, I'd be willing to say the Rams, the Packers, and obviously the Buccaneers could easily miss the playoffs as well. But I think the Eagles got a lot to figure out as well. I mean, do the Giants get better next year? Probably. What's their quarterback situation look like? What's the Cowboys situation look like? But I mean, the Lions, I think, are going to be good for a little while. They've got a good roster. They're not going to have a lot of turnover after this season. But the Rams kind of snuck in there after a great second half of the season. The Packers, finished the season 9-8 and barely got in above the Seahawks and the Saints. Obviously, once you get in, and you can certainly do a lot with it because everybody's got the same record at that point. But I could see a team like the Rams not making it next year, and the Packers potentially not making it. But that NFC South is certainly a division that'll be interesting.
That will be interesting. And the progression of the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young, we saw, Trevor Lawrence in year one, he had Urban Meyer, and kind of, we all sort of erased that. Like, all right, you get a redo here.
Pass there,
and so with Bryce Young not having Frank Reich anymore, what Panthers haven't made a decision, have they?
No, I don't think so yet.
Yeah, so what direction they go, that will be interesting. Obviously, a team. Who's another team outside? Because I like your Packers pick, but the Packers seem like a team that could be one of the leaders of the NFC when it comes to next year. Yeah. And how they continue to do this quarterback production that they have, the way that they draft their quarterbacks is unheralded. I mean, I think we were talking about it Saturday night in the Packers and 49ers game, one day having a segment on, or just asking the question on what franchise has produced the best quarterback lineage, if you will, and you have to take the Patriots out of the equation because it can't just be one guy who's
such a long
there. Yeah, exactly.
No, absolutely. The Packers they did it well they had Favre, and they figured out how we're going to replace Favre. They bring in a guy named Aaron Rodgers, let him sit behind for a little bit, and then he comes in and does an amazing job, wins 4 MVPs, 3 MVPs, something like that.
I want to say 3, but it's more than likely.
Either way, had a great run there with the Packers and many NFC championships, and then do the same thing, draft Jordan Love and 4 MVPs.
Yeah, but one's 2020. Does that count? No, I'm just kidding. Yes, it does count.
Fans. There was
no
fans. He doesn't count as an MVP if there's no fans. But yeah, and then they do the same thing again with Jordan Love. So yeah, I think that's a kudos to the ownership group up there, and kind of the polar opposite of what the Cleveland Browns have done with their quarterback situation. I mean, when drafting, Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, and all these guys, and just having that revolving door there for a little while, and then finally settling down, and we just talked about it, but doing guaranteed contracts, and then having to have Joe Flacco come in and lead you into the playoffs. So it's
how about the Eagles? Are they a playoff team next year?
That's what I was saying. I don't know. I mean, I think the Cowboys, they look like they're pretty much going to reload. They got to pick up some free agents and do some things, but it looks like they're going to keep Dak and keep McCarthy and all that stuff.
They'll be fine for 18 games next year.
Yeah, it's just once they get to the playoffs, things change a little bit, though. But yeah, I don't know, and it looks like because they just the Eagles just parted ways with their offensive coordinator as well. So
Eagles fans were happy about that, and they're also interviewing Ron Rivera for the DC job. Yeah, that was one of the issues. They had the defensive coordinator, then all of a sudden, about halfway through the season, or maybe it was about after they went 10-1, so maybe week 13 or week 14, they all of a sudden had Matt Patricia calling plays. And I think anytime that you're making decisions like that in the middle of the season, and you're supposed to be one of the front runners,
the elites,
there's something going on, and we saw that. We saw that in the final 6 weeks of the season, falling 5 or 6 times, and then we saw it on the bench during that Eagles-Buccaneers wild card game.
Yeah, that culture certainly changed a little bit. I mean, and they lost both of their coordinators from the previous year because they had done such a good job, and everybody was going to be like, is this going to catch up with them? And it eventually did. And now they're trying to get that back going, and hopefully Nick Sirianni is the guy in Philadelphia. But yeah, I mean, I could see Philadelphia easily not making the playoffs next year just because of how competitive the NFC is going to be, kind of in that mid 3 to 7, 8, 9 seed teams, and Dallas will probably be the front runner for that division. I mean, what happens if the Giants start getting
like
a little
Daniel
better?
Jones?
Yeah, and I mean, the Washington Commanders, they got some serious draft stock coming up. They can get some stuff figured out. They're in the process of getting some new coaching staff going. So interesting thoughts. I mean, obviously it's way down the road, but just because you made the play, it just shows how difficult it is to make the playoffs, and also how difficult it is to win playoff games. I mean, ask the Dallas Cowboys that. It's certainly challenging.
And if Kirk Cousins is back with the Vikings,
yeah, where's Kirk going to go? I mean, does he go to the Falcons? There's a lot to figure out here.
Kirk Cousins on the Falcons would be so interesting because with the Vikings, now we saw the emergence of Jordan Addison, but your two-trick pony, if you will, with Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson. They had some good wide receivers outside of that, but then when you look at those weapons that you have in Atlanta, you don't have a Justin Jefferson over there per se, but with Drake London, with Kyle Pitts, with your running back committee over there in Algier and in Bijan Robinson, you have more that you can do, I think, over there. Now the question is going to be, well, what's been an issue for the Minnesota Vikings the last 2 years? Defense, right? And the Falcons sometimes showed that they could play good defense. Is that are they the beneficiary of a bad division? I mean, you're only playing 6 games in your division.
That's
You've
true.
got 11 games outside of that. So, I think, man, you put Kirk Cousins with a couple more weapons, that could be highly dangerous. And he goes from a dome to dome situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he'd be very well received up there in Atlanta for sure. The biggest question in this offseason, because it's going to kind of be the domino effect, is does Justin Fields stay a Chicago Bear? If Justin Fields stays a Chicago Bear, that's going to completely move the draft board around because, one, they have that number 1 pick. So do they take a Marvin Harrison Jr. or do they trade that number 1 pick and do way more with it and really load up? Or do they trade Justin Fields, and take Caleb Williams or whatever it may be with that number 1 pick? So it's just that, I think, is like the tip of the iceberg as far as what happens with the draft and when people start moving around is where does Justin Fields play next year? If
I'm the Bears, if I'm the Bears, I'm holding on to Justin Fields.
I agree with you.
Just because we've seen 2 years now, he's capable of being pretty
when he's
good.
Healthy, absolutely.
Exactly. There's not a ton of weapons over there. If I'm the Bears, I ride it out with him because I don't care who you bring in. They're not going to be ready. So if you're actually trying to make a move at winning the NFC North, then you have to stick with Justin Fields because I don't think that Caleb Williams is going to come in. Now, you could get the CJ Stroud type of year. You could have that because they've got those multiple draft picks. We saw what the Texans did, jumping back up early into the first round to take Will Anderson and shore up both sides of the ball, or at least draft well on both sides of the ball. All at the same time as having a rookie head coach in DeMeco Ryans. But if I'm the Bears, I'm sticking with him. If I don't stick with him, though, and trade him to the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I just made the Atlanta Falcons a really good team.
Oh, yeah.
I think that the Falcons could be more, same conference, yeah. I think that the Falcons would be more dangerous with a quarterback with the mobility of Justin Fields than they would be with a accurate passer in Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, no, I agree completely, especially, when you got the running backs that they have, too. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of Lamar Jackson, right? You have to both defend him running, and if he does threat to run and you commit to stopping him, that just opens up so many of these weapons the Falcons have. And I know, our good friend Keith Fleming, he's a huge Atlanta Falcons fan, and I know he wants Justin Fields to go there. And I think that makes Justin Fields to the Falcons makes them the front runner for the NFC South, in my opinion.
And then Bucks and Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, what are they going to do?
You have to go back with Baker, right? I mean, after he had the year that he had, filling in for the shoes of Tom Brady, I think you got to make that effort. And then also, you know who I would have liked to see? I didn't even take the time to talk about Brian Callahan. The Titans are just trying to find a way to get first round draft or to get the number 1 overall draft pick. I have no idea what they're doing. Hiring a guy who doesn't even play calls for his own team is really just involved in the structure of what the Bengals and the personnel of what the Bengals put out there offensively. Not really sure about the hire there. I would have been content with getting a guy like Joe Brady. Yeah. I think give Joe Brady another year in that Bills system, and he'll be your next kind of Brian Daboll, and hopefully the Brian Daboll can get the Giants back on track.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it seems like with that move with Callahan there, they're kind of prioritizing Will Levis's development as Brian Callahan is the son of Bill Callahan, former Raiders coach, and he comes from that Sean McVay coaching tree. So obviously trying to develop the quarterback, and they spent a lot of draft capital on quarterbacks the last few years, so might as well try to get a little help for it and kind of go from there. But when we get back, we'll be joined by our good friend, that's Steve Alexander, also known as Doc A, our NBA expert, NBA Daily Fantasy expert, recent inductee into the Fantasy Sports Writers Hall of Fame. You're listening to The Inside Drive live here on ESPN Northwest Florida. We'll be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida presents the most college basketball.
Three-pointer. College basketball is back.
The Panhandle's destination for live play-by-play.
The SEC, ACC, and beyond.
Oh, he saw that coming, Ref.
The biggest games play right here.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Tuesday's weather. This afternoon and evening there will be a moderate breeze out of the east-southeast, light rain and 63. A variety of slight fog and light sprinkles tonight, about the same at 61. Tomorrow, slightly foggy and lightly raining and a high of 68. The same at 68 Thursday, and we'll have a variety of heavy rain and slight fog. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumberyard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Attention homeowners, are you dreaming of a backyard oasis? Look no further than S&R Fencing, your go-to destination for quality outdoor transformations. At S&R, they specialize in crafting custom fences, decks, retainer walls, and all exterior construction that not only enhances the beauty of your home, but also stands the test of time. Their experienced team takes pride in delivering top-notch craftsmanship with a personal touch. S&R Fencing, locally owned, licensed, and insured, and a member of the BBB.
Did you know that fees associated with real estate closings are virtually the same from one title company to the next? So what sets South Oak Title apart? Effective communication, customer service, expertise, and technology. If you're buying or selling real estate, refinancing a residential or commercial property, tell your realtor you want to close with South Oak Title. South Oak Title, with locations across the Southeast, including Panama City Beach, Inlet Beach, Destin, and Fort Walton Beach. Visit them online at southoaktitle.com.
You hear it first. Sports talk right now. Back to the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey.
I know it seems a bit overwhelming at first.
Broadcasting from the Bill Kramer Chevrolet Buick GMC and Kramer Marine Outdoor Studios.
Something makes me think you'll get used to it.
On ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome back. You're listening to the Inside Drive live here on ESPN Northwest Florida. It's Tuesday. It's 11:20 here in the Central Time Zone. That means one thing. We are joined on the line by Hall of Fame fantasy sports writer Steve Alexander, also known as Doc A. Doc, how are you doing on this little mild Tuesday for us down here in the Panhandle? A little rainy, but at least it's not 35 degrees.
Yeah, it's in the 40s here. It's going to rain till Monday, but it's going to be in the 60s tomorrow. I'm doing all right.
Excellent. Kind of a wild night in your world yesterday with all these big numbers being dropped in the basketball world. What did you think of Joel Embiid dropping 70 points, shortly followed by Karl Anthony Towns dropping 62 points, and then Kevin Durant not living up as high as these two guys, but dropped 43 points as well. But what do you think? The reigning MVP off to a good start. I think it's how many games in a row scoring over 30 points? Pretty wild stuff coming from the Philadelphia 76er.
Yeah, Embiid had 70 points, 18 boards, 5 assists, a steal, a block, 24 of 41 shooting, 21 and 23 free throws. He passed Wilt Chamberlain for the scoring title in a single game in Philadelphia. He's got the only 70-18-5 game in NBA history, and the only other guy who had a 70-15-5 game was Michael Jordan. So Embiid had himself a night, and it was against Greg Popovich and the Spurs and Victor Wembanyama. Wemby really wasn't guarding him much one-on-one. It seemed like they had other guys on Embiid. Embiid was just standing out the free throw line, just popping mid-range jumpers all night long. His jumper was on. He was uber confident and just could not be stopped. The crazy thing about Embiid, you mentioned how many games in a row he's been playing well. The Sixers are 6-1 over their last 7. In January, Embiid is averaging 40.3 points, 11 rebounds, 5.5 assists, over a steal, and 1.5 blocks. His shooting percentages, he's 54% from the field, 41% from three-point land, 87% from the line. This might be one of the greatest months we've ever seen a single player have in fantasy basketball. Like, he's just dominating.
Certainly shaping up that way, that's for sure. I mean, averaging over 40 points in a month is just insane. And not like Wemby had a terrible game. He scored 33 points in that loss. They scored 123 points, just not to be outdone there by Joel. But what do you attest these high score or the run that Joel Embiid is on right now with the Sixers? What do you think the reason is for that?
Well, kind of like in football, the NBA has changed the rules to where you really can't put hands on guys, guard guys anymore. And,
yeah,
an offensively skilled player like Joel Embiid, when he's healthy and feeling it, man, there's nobody that's going to be able to stop him. There's nobody that's going to be able to stop Wembanyama. KD, same thing. Karl-Anthony Towns last night, although we didn't talk about Karl-Anthony Towns. He had 62. He easily could have had 70, but, man, that team folded down the stretch. He was trying to get to the line. He was driving a lot, and they were taking the ball away from him. They were fouling him, and he wasn't getting calls. And they ended up choking that game away and lost a game they should have won. So Cat's 62 had a much different feel than Embiid's 70 did. But, yeah, Cat hit 10 three-pointers. He's 7 feet tall. So, I mean, it's crazy how good these guys are. And that's the difference between back in the day and today, too, is all these big men shoot threes, almost every one of them. And Larry Bird was taking as many threes in an entire season as Steph Curry takes in a month, back in the day. So it's just a different game.
Yeah, it's a lot of and it seems like all the major sports, even on the golf side a little bit, they're dialing the ball back, but just more offense. I mean, even hockey. I grew up playing hockey. I've been a hockey fan my whole life, and they've changed the rules quite a bit to encourage more scoring, and it's just it's entertainment at the end of the day. And I guess when you put up a 70 spot in a game, that's certainly entertaining for the fans.
Hey, on the golf side of things, how about Nick Dunlap? I'm so glad that I turned that on and watched his last 3 holes, because it was on the same time as the football game.
Yep, it was. Yeah, I was bouncing back and forth a little bit in that one.
I didn't even turn the channel. I was like, I'm watching this amateur win this tournament. Like, this is incredible. I guess it just doesn't happen, especially today. And the whole drama with whether he knew he was up 1 or 2 going into the 18th hole was, like, that's just cool. That doesn't happen in other sports. Like,
no.
Does he know that somebody birdied 18 and now he's only up 1? Because, for me personally, if I'm up 2 as opposed to up by 1, my shot into that 18th green is going to be completely different than if I know I'm up. It makes a big difference. And, he got lucky and hit that chair and it rolled down by the green. Like, that was such a lucky break. But, man, what a cool story. He's got a big decision to make. I think he has to go pro, don't you?
That's the tough thing. I mean, and, I was reading some articles before the show today, too, about, his agent. I forget the name of the company off the top of my head, but it's also one of the agents that brokered a lot of these deals for Live Tour guys as well. But, yeah, I mean, he was already exempt into the Masters and the U.S. Open because he won the U.S. Amateur. But if he were to go pro, I think he would lose the U.S. Open exemption, but then he would get a PGA Championship exemption because of the PGA Tour victory. And then also, all these new signature events, right? That's the big thing on the PGA Tour this year, is they've jacked up these purses in these signature events, which are, I think, 60-ish player fields with, a lot of money for those, top spots for sure. So, it just depends on what does he want to do. And I know he can still play in the PGA Tour events now that he's got a 2-year exemption, even if he stays enrolled at Alabama. But we were talking a little bit about this yesterday. You're not guaranteed, even if you keep your exemption. I mean, you could have some kind of crazy injury or something. Like, it's almost like playing a bowl game, right? In college football, he could end up getting hurt and miss out on this opportunity to make, obviously life-changing generational money. So I don't know how you couldn't not turn pro at this point, because it's so hard to get to the PGA Tour, period.
If he goes pro now, can he get paid for that? For Sunday's win?
No, that's off the table, because you have to be a professional before the start of the event in order to be eligible for prize money. So
that's what I thought, but somebody else in the golf industry was telling me that he could still get paid for it even after the fact, which I didn't think that sounded right. But yeah, either way, man, like you said, it's like a number 1 draft pick, risking playing in a bowl game or risking playing in the NCAA tournament as a basketball player. If you blow out your knee and you were going to be the number 1 pick, that's generational money you're leaving living out there. Like, I just think there's only so many windows that open in your life, and when one of them opens, you pretty much have to go through it, or it'll close, and you just don't know what'll happen.
Well, and especially just get, because, again, we were talking about it yesterday, but, what's your goal as a high-level college football player? To make it to the NFL. There's only so many opportunities. What's your goal as a high-level collegiate golfer? To try to make it to whatever the top tour you think is. Obviously, it's changed a lot in the last year, but you've just earned yourself an opportunity for a 2-year exemption on the PGA Tour, which is what all these people would kill for. And then if you don't turn pro and take that opportunity, like you said, that window closes, it may never open up again. And you're not going to have that. And I think it's the same reason why Jon Rahm went to the LIV Tour, because that type of money isn't going to be on your doorstep very often, and it may never be again. So the old strike while the iron's hot. And I think, but just special. I mean, the last person to do it, Phil Mickelson, back in 1991, and it just doesn't happen very often. But it shows you how good these kids are coming up in college golf. I always said, because I've a lot of clubs I've worked at, we've hosted mini tour events, the old Hooters tour and stuff like that. And I always used to say the guys playing on these tours are just as good as the guys playing on the PGA Tour or the Web or whatever it may be. They just haven't got the break because there's only so many spots to fill on these tours. So this guy, these kids are so freaking good. It's insane to go out. Not only did he win the tournament, but he also set the tournament record for the lowest score in the tournament history. And he's 20 years old playing college golf. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Wow.
I'm just really glad I watched it. That's all I know.
History for sure. And now we've learned that, Alabama is no longer a football school. It is now a golf school.
So because JT went there too, right?
JT went to Alabama. Robbie Shell. There's a lot of really good players that went to Alabama. Jay Sewell's the head coach over there, and got a great program. But with all these people transferring out, it's moving to that golf school now. That's for sure. But cool. Saban reached out to Nick Dunlap as well, but man, he was. I saw an interview with him yesterday. Not to keep talking about it, but somebody asked him, were you nervous? And on the surface, he didn't look. He said, but if I had a heart monitor attached to me, he said, you would have seen that thing going off the charts. And you will always hear these guys talk about, and we've had the pleasure of talking to Phil Shomo a few times on this show, who's one of the top collegiate mental coaches out there as well. And he always talks about breathing and just doing everything slowly. And you just have to commit to that in golf and just slow everything down, because it's so easy to rush and try to do things fast. And then that's when you make mistakes. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's just that's just something that doesn't happen very often, and a pretty amazing moment in sports, that's for sure.
Somewhere in Panama City, there's a guy driving around in his car right now like, man, I just want to talk. I just want to hear him talk about NBA basketball. And he keeps going back to golf.
Hey, it's the Inside Drive. They know the deal here on the program. But yeah, getting back to basketball. Obviously, about halfway through the season, and I know David he's been tuning in a little bit more on the NBA as the football season is winding down.
Yeah, what's your early thoughts on the combination of Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam in 2 games? I think we got to see them together.
Well, I got to see one. Tyrese they aggravated his leg. He's going to miss the next 2 games now.
So did he not play in the Suns game?
I don't think he did. And then now he's out for 2 more. They brought him back too early. They got excited about trying to showcase him and Pascal together, get everybody fired up. I'm excited about it. I think everybody in the league would love to play with Tyrese Halliburton. I think Pascal Siakam is a very good talent. They're kind of stacked. They have too many big men. They have too many power forwards and center type guys in Indy. They need to make a trade and then bolster that roster a little bit more. They need to figure out what to do with Buddy Hield. He's been on the trade block all year. They've got Benedict Mathurin kind of behind him, waiting for his real big opportunity, although he's played a lot this year and played well. But I'm from Indianapolis originally, so I'm kind of fired up about that trade and the Pacers. The Pacers didn't used to be a team that could get free agents to come over and play, sort of like Atlanta for whatever reason. And it's very exciting It's an exciting time to be a Pacer fan. I just wish Halliburton wasn't hurt, but that Halliburton injury looked really bad when it happened. So the fact that you only missed 2 or 3 weeks instead of 2 months, it's still a good thing. I just hope he's okay by the end of the week.
And then what about that trade that happened earlier this morning with the Heat landing Rozier and Kyle Lowry in a draft pick headed up to Charlotte? What does that do for the Heat moving forward?
Well, Charlotte is just going to collect as many first-round picks as they can get, try to follow the Oklahoma City Thunder model, and just acquire assets and try to build around LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. As for the Heat, that's not a lot to give up for Terry Rozier. He's having a career year in Charlotte. He's going to give them added scoring. He's going to give them a better guard option than they had in 38-year-old Kyle Lowry. So the Heat were already one of the better teams in the East, and they just got better. So you got Rozier, you got Jimmy Butler. If Jimmy Butler will get out there and play, you got Bam Adebayo, you got Tyler Hero. Good players in Miami, the best coach in the East, and Eric Spoelstra. So good move for the Heat. It'll be interesting to see if Terry Rozier's numbers take a dip now that he's got so many good players to play with. But reality basketball, that was a really good move for Miami.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff there. We got some good games on the docket tonight for some Tuesday action, basketball action. What are some good plays you're liking tonight in some of these matchups? I know the Nuggets got another game against the Pacers this evening as well, and then you got Knicks and Nets on TNT, Jazz and Pelicans, Trailblazers and OKC, and then the 2 Los Angeles teams with the nightcap on TNT as well. But what are some good? Sorry.
I need to do a better job of researching the upcoming games before I come on your show, because you always ask me, you're always like, my buddy in the studio is gonna bet based on what you say, and then I always have no idea what I'm talking about, and I'm probably causing him to lose lunch money occasionally. And if that's the case, my apologies. But
it's still his decisions, not yours.
I don't know. LeBron is not playing tonight for the Lakers, so that means Anthony Davis is probably going to go ballistic. D'Angelo Russell will probably have a good game. The Clippers are really, really good now with James Harden and Kawhi and the other one, Paul George. So that game should be interesting. But the Clippers are probably going to win since LeBron's not playing, if I had to guess. But the Thunder are going to run all over the Blazers. I don't know if you can throw props out there on the Thunder guys, because that should be a blowout win for OKC. The Nets and Knicks is fun because they hate each other.
Yeah.
That's always a good time. The Pacers will not have Halliburton, so T.J. McConnell should be a strong play tonight. Pacers don't play defense. Nikola Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray should all go crazy. Some fun games. Fun games on the docket for tonight.
Yeah, should be a lot of big national TV games on. Before we let you go, Doc, we got the championship weekend coming up in the NFL side of things. Who do you think's going to win the NFC and the AFC championships?
Well, I told you last week that the Lions were going to do it, and they did. I still can't believe it. How cool is that? And then, the AFC, we've got the Chiefs. Chiefs. and the Ravens look really, really good, man.
Yeah.
I'm going Ravens and Lions. And I guess now if you're a man and you're not happy about Taylor Swift taking over the whole Kelsey Swift Chiefs thing, then you have issues. So I must have issues because one of the things I posted the other night on Facebook, I said 5 things I never need to see again. Travis Kelce TV commercial, Taylor Swift at a football game, Kelsey's brother without a shirt on. Like, I just don't need to see those things. And I'm so tired of Kelsey this, Kelsey that, over and over and over again. So I mean, it's literally making me root for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Right or wrong, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think if you look at some of those maps talking about everybody rooting for the teams in the championship games, I think everybody but people from Kansas and that area are rooting for the Ravens simply for that reason that you had just mentioned. But it's going to be an interesting matchup. Yeah, the Ravens are just both sides of the football playing so well. Lamar is just so hard to contain. But Patrick Mahomes, 6 straight AFC championship games, and he just finds ways to keep making it back there and winning football games regardless of who's on the field with him. But Doc, we appreciate
because he's that good. He's that good, man. He's that guy.
Yep, he is. He's faking out guys past the line of scrimmage, pretending to pass, and people are biting on it. Just wild stuff. But should be some fun championship games coming up this weekend. But Doc, we appreciate your time as always. Let everybody know real quick where they can find all your good information.
Follow me on Twitter. It's DOCKTORA. That's where I post my stuff. Links to my ESPN columns and my RotoWire columns and my RotoWire podcast. If you like basketball, and if you like especially fantasy basketball, my podcasts are kind of no nonsense. We just crank through as much fantasy info as we can get to in an hour. I just got done recording one. That's why my voice is always shot when I'm on your show. But it's up there at RotoWire's YouTube channel right now.
There you go. Go check it out. Doc, we appreciate your time as always, and look forward to we will not be on the air next Tuesday. It'll probably be a week after that, hopefully, but I'll keep you posted on all that stuff.
I will go ahead and set my alarm for an extra hour and a half of nap time.
There you go. There you go. You get a little extra snooze next Tuesday. That's Steve Alexander, Doc A, joining us on Tuesday. You guys are listening to the Inside Drive live here on ESPN Northwest Florida. We'll be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida. We're taking the Inside Drive.
Just play the dang guitar. Uh-oh. We got it. We've got it happen. Recording.
Birdies and beer.
See, you're depriving us of this.
That's one thing Daddy likes, and that's birdies and beer.
Ryan Mulvey.
Thank you very little.
Middays 11 to 1 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
With over 65 years of combined experience, Instant Replay Sports Cards is happy to help you take your collection to the next level. They carry all the new hobby boxes, signed memorabilia, and supplies. New and vintage cards and Pokemon. They sell and trade cards and are always looking to buy. They're an authorized source for Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, and Leaf cards. Instant Replay Sports Cards is open 7 days a week at 752 West 23rd Street, down from Academy Sports. It can always be reached at InstantReplaySportsCards.com.
Sports fans, we love our teams, but let's talk real estate for a moment. Meet Berg Title, your trusted local real estate title and escrow company. Based in downtown Panama City, Berg Title knows the community inside out. They handle everything from title searches to escrow services with expertise. Honest, reliable, and here to make your real estate journey smooth. Remember, it's Berg Title. Call them at 850-250-2900. That's Berg Title, your partner for a worry-free real estate experience in Panama City and Panama City Beach.
Jim Gaffigan here with some more Straight Talk. Let's take a moment to appreciate our sweet children, loving grandparents, and eternal soulmates. Now let's use them to save money on wireless. Because with the Straight Talk Silver Plan, you get 4 lines for just $25 a month with unlimited data and no contracts. So add those human pawns, loved ones, and save money. Thanks, kids. They're finally worth it. Straight Talk Wireless, available at Walmart.
Get 4 lines on Silver Unlimited for $25 per line per month, plus taxes and fees. For data management practices and additional terms, visit straighttalk.com.
Do you suffer from political talk radio fatigue?
We know that under the 49% rate, the U.S.
Tune into the most fun and exciting new radio show on the Gulf Coast. It's The Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey. From the Bill Kramer Chevrolet Buick GMC and Kramer Marine Outdoor Studios on ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome welcome back. You're listening to the Inside Drive live here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Always enjoy talking to Doc A. And we didn't even get to a fun story this Tuesday, so I'm sure we'll have some good ones coming down the pipeline on future shows, as Doc has been around for a long time and has a plethora of stories when it comes to getting shoes from NBA players as well, specifically. But yeah, had a little dynasty flag football action last night. Had a interesting game out there on the gridiron. I was going to say the hardwood, but it's not the hardwood. And the team played well. The whole gaggle of people got in on the action, and net improved to 5-1 on the season, with one more regular season game maybe coming up this Thursday, depending on how this weather holds out. But I know a lot of times we will play in the rain. So, and then the playoffs will get going next week, which will be exciting. But yeah, I got to give some love to some of the kids on the team. I know Griffin Fruin had a touchdown catch, his first one of his career there.
That was his first touchdown?
First ever touchdown, yeah.
Dude, his confidence has soared throughout the season.
Yes, no, definitely. It's been fun, and we've been working the last couple of weeks on really trying to get the ball quickly on these receivers, and the kids were just running good routes, catching good passes, and played great defense. Yeah, you guys, it was pick central there last night, and everybody was getting in on the action.
Matt, I was looking for us too. I asked him before the game when we were warming up, so how many interceptions you gonna have tonight? He said 1 or 2. I said, we'll get 2. Yeah, he almost had it. Had the 2, but no, it was a great showing from them last night, and I'm really excited if we had the opportunity for the rematch.
Yeah, definitely. Which, depending on how these playoffs shake out, we'll certainly see how that goes. But yeah, always fun to be out there. It was nice because it wasn't, freezing cold out there last night.
Yeah, stayed in the 60s. Started to sprinkle at the end.
Yeah, that was it was good. I was seeing a lot of matchups out there, and those were makeup games from a couple weeks ago. Obviously, when those severe storms came through back on January 9th. So always fun to be out there on the field. And even Jay came.
Jay was there.
First showing for our That's why he's not here right now, because he came to the game last night.
My man had gloves on and everything.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. He was certainly dressed a little cool, a little warmer than I think it warranted. But
it's all right though, because like the week before that, it was like 53, or our game last week, and I had a dang
it felt a lot
beanie
colder.
on.
Yep, definitely. It's that old humidity in the South. But I also want to give a shout out to the University Academy girls soccer team, who's got a game coming up this afternoon at 4 p.m. against Jenks Middle School, and looking forward to watching Ryan play in some of that action. And I also believe the boys basketball team for UA is going to be playing a game against Jenks as well.
Let's go.
Yeah, so some middle school action going on. And we mentioned yesterday that the district tournament for soccer, that number 1 in the nation ranked Arnold Marlins boys soccer team, is getting underway with their tournament next week. And I don't know if you're going to do it on your show or not, but I'd love to try to get the new Arnold football coach on and get his thoughts and see what he's looking to do. And because obviously he really did a fantastic job at Bozeman and brought them to one of the best seasons in their history, and now going over there to Arnold, where obviously they've struggled over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, just trying to retain the talent out there on the beach.
Yeah, it's been a process for the Marlins, no doubt about that. And one of the things that got to change right off the rip is the amount of points scored, which they lost their quarterback going into the season, lost like their top 2
players. And I think that's happened, the last 2 years in a row they've lost their starting quarterback before the season started?
Yeah, it's been tough for them, but when you put up 12 points through the course of a season and you get scored, and you have 376 points scored on you.
Yeah.
It makes it tough.
No doubt. No doubt. But if anybody can do it,
476,
something, a big delta, a big delta, nonetheless. But if anybody can do it, Coach Griffin can certainly bring the prowess back there to the Arnold Marlins team. It's kind of wild, right? Like we were talking about the college football, and you got Saban leaving, and you got DeBoer moving, and you got all these moving pieces, and it's almost kind of like that at the high school level here. It really is, because what you have
you had Coach Jeremy Brown, who was over there at Mosley, and then I think he took a brief hiatus, went to Vernon, I think, and then back there at Bay and turned that program around. Yeah, a lot of moving parts. I mean, you look at baseball even, and you had Coach Hudson over there at Mosley, then he's over at Bay. So there is a lot of moving parts, and I almost want to say that it's even harder at the high school level because you still have all of those moving parts and everything. I'm not trying to take anything away from the college coaches at all because they, recruiting and all of that good stuff. But is it fair to say that maybe high school coaches are more impactful on their lives?
I think it's completely fair to say. I mean, you're dealing with kids that are 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. I mean, and that's when you're developing the most, your brain is developing the most, you're learning the most. And I think that's why, if you ask a lot of athletes and people that have went on to play in the pros or just have successful college careers, they're always the common answer when somebody says, who was one of the most impactful people in your life? It's usually one of their coaches because, they have so much time and opportunity with these young men and women. And, coaches are just so important. And really, I mean, I don't want to say it's a thankless job, but you're putting in a lot of hours, and the money you get paid to put in those hours is definitely not proportionate. So you really have to love what you do and care about developing young men and women.
Yeah, you're putting in a lot of hours that people see. Yeah, the hours that you put in that people don't see, whether it's washing the jerseys or whatever. I mean, it's the epitome of servitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to have that servant heart to want to be a coach out there. But I mean, it's interesting. Things are certainly changing quickly, and I'm assuming that probably came as a surprise to a lot of people that Coach Griffin made the move down there to the Gavlac Stadium and the Arnold Marlins football program. And I know Coach Campbell, he was there for a little while, and I'm not speaking for him, but he came in when Coach Vaughn was the new head coach there, came in as the defensive coordinator, and then all of a sudden Coach Vaughn announced his retirement, and Coach Campbell kind of default became the head coach. So it's not like Coach Campbell went there wanting to be the head coach. So kudos for him, hanging on, doing as much as he could with that program to, bridge that gap to where they are now. But it'll be a lot of interesting stuff coming on in the fall.
Yeah, and I mean, the same way for Bozeman last year, rooting for them when they're going down the stretch. I want all of these teams to be good, and then that way when we're getting these inter-county games, we're getting very competitive games. Like calling the games or not, or even just when I'm going to them, I want to see competitive football. I want to see good football, and so want to see Coach Griffin do great over there at Arnold, and then also really intrigued by the hire that Bozeman's about to make. Which direction do they end up going?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I think you nailed it. The better all the football programs are in your county, the more success everybody's going to have, the more eyes it puts on the athletes. I mean, because, at the end of the day, you're trying to get kids up to the next level that have that potential to do it. And the more eyes you have on the area and the county and the coaches with their connections, the easier it's going to be for some of those kids that do, in fact, have those opportunities. But, good luck to Coach Griffin over there at Arnold. And, so we'll see how that all shakes out there. I know we only got a few minutes before our top of the hour break. I was going to try to dive into something with you, David, and I wanted to do it when Jay was here, but I was going to see if we can maybe figure out who we think, a little ballpark action. Next year's the first year of the 12-team playoff. Who do we think are some teams that are definitely going to be in there, and some teams that may have an opportunity, to make some stuff happen and sneak in there? Because there's obviously been a ton of transfer stuff going on. Obviously, Alabama has lost a lot of big-name players, not only to Ohio State, but also to Texas and also to Florida State.
We're spreading the love.
Yeah. Like I said, you guys are a golf school now. You can't do it all and can't be good at everything. But so you're seeing a lot more of this. These people bouncing around all over the place, transferring more than one time. So how's that going to impact what this 12-team playoff looks like? And do we officially know how many automatic bids there are? Is that set in stone yet?
I think your automatic bids are going to be your 4 So that's what's kind of going to be different. Instead of it being 5 automatic Power 5 bids and then one G5, your top G5. So that would be 6. I imagine it'll be 4 and 5, or 4 and then the one G5 squad. So that'll be interesting. And then obviously, the coolest part to me of the whole entire thing is that some of the teams in the first round are going to be hosting playoff games. I think
that's
a
whole new ball game.
A new wrinkle to college football that's going to provide a lot of excitement. But what's interesting is, all right, so you can't count. I don't think it's fair to count Alabama as an automatic qualifier anymore.
Given the situation, I think that's fair. Yeah,
From my standpoint,
they could easily be right in there. I mean, they still got Jalen Milroe. They still may pick up some transfers and that kind of stuff.
But it's all question marks.
Yes.
It's all question marks, whereas we know what we're getting out of Ole Miss, right?
Yep.
Like, all right, they lost Quinshon Judkins, but outside of that, everything is still intact over there. We know that Texas is bringing Quinn Ewers back.
Yep.
We know that they had a great year last year. Now, what's going to be interesting to see for me with Texas and Oklahoma and Washington and Oregon and UCLA and USC is they're going from a conference where it was 1 or 2 or maybe 3 games on the schedule where it's like, all right, focus is paramount here to now where it's week in and week out. Like if you take if you overlook someone, you'll be paying for that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can quickly slip and lose one of those even if you're playing a Maryland or somebody like that, it's a lot different than going up against Stanford and teams like that are an easier out, so to speak. But when we get back at the top of the hour, we're talking more a little bit about who we think may make up that 12-team playoff next year. Maybe talk a little bit about the transfer updates. Excited also to talk to Brad Law coming up at 12:20. He's the Director of Broadcast Operations for the Auburn Sports Radio Network. Those Auburn basketball Tigers, those men's basketball team is on fire right now and got a big matchup tomorrow night against the Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. You're listening to The Inside Drive. We'll be right back.
Set your alarm clock to wake up with the Coach Hales Show on ESPN Northwest Florida. In-depth local and college sports from expert insiders and a dash of controversy.
Can be deadly.
Weekday mornings 7 to 9.
Nothing says good morning like a drunken human alarm clock.
You're live from the J. Michael Studio.
We all know who loves the Florida Gators, but that's okay.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
I can control the world.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Tuesday's weather. This afternoon and evening, there will be a moderate breeze out of the east-southeast, light rain and 63. A variety of slight fog and light sprinkles tonight, about the same at 61. Tomorrow, slightly foggy and lightly raining and a high of 68. The same at 68 Thursday, and we'll have a variety of heavy rain and slight fog. This forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumberyard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Ellis Agency Insurance has been serving Panama City and Bay County for years. They offer a full line of affordable insurance coverage of all types. Many people are attracted to Ellis Agency Insurance because of their friendly, knowledgeable staff. Call independent agent Johnny Ellis for a true comparison of your personal or business insurance. Ellis Agency Insurance at the Old Cullen Insurance location, 1134 Harrison Avenue, across from Dandy Donuts in Delhi. Call 763-1627.
The Panhandle's destination for live play-by-play.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Jim Gaffigan here with some more straight talk. Now you can get a Walmart Plus membership, plus not pay for it, because it's included with Straight Talk wireless plans. You get free delivery with Walmart Plus a Paramount Plus subscription included. Plus, you pay less for gas. That's a lot of pluses.
Only Straight Talk gives you unlimited 5G data and Walmart Plus included on select plans for free.
Straight Talk Wireless, available at Walmart.
Requires service on Gold or Platinum Unlimited. One offer per eligible account. Paramount Plus Essential Plan only. Separate registration required. Additional terms apply.
We're starting fresh.
Fresh new start.
Locally sourced, farm to radio. The Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey is live and local. From the Bill Kramer Chevrolet Buick GMC and Kramer Marine Outdoor Studios on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Sky rockets in flight. Afternoon delight.
And welcome Welcome back. You're listening to the Inside Drive live here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Sitting inside the Bill Kramer Chevrolet, Buick GMC, and Kramer Marine and Outdoor Studios. You can check out both of those wonderful businesses out there right at the corner of Frankfort and 23rd Street. I saw Mr. Chris Kramer and his gaggle of kids out there playing some flag football out on the Frank Nelson fields, looking good. I love watching the young division out there playing flag football because it really wasn't that long ago that was Team Dynasty out there having some fun, just trying to beat some flagpoles, and it's just that's what it's all about. It's what it's all about, just seeing those kids having fun and making some stuff happen and just having a good time. But yeah, it was cool to see him out there. But go check out Bill Kramer GM. Lots of new vehicles in stock, selling tires at cost. Get your vehicle serviced. You can trade in your vehicle, get you a new vehicle, and then right around the corner there on the Frankfort Ave side is Kramer Marine and Outdoor.
Just keep going. Whenever you're done, then I'll chime in here.
No, I was just going to say, you got Kramer Marine and Outdoor, lots of different things. They got Seabourn, Sundance, Spider, and Skeeter boats all selling right there at the dealership. But they'll also fix your boat up. They'll come out to your dock, get you back out on the water. And if you got a boat that you're looking to sell and don't want to deal with the hassle, Kramer Marine and Outdoor will take care of that for you. They'll fix your boat up. They'll get it listed. They'll deal with the back and forth. And they'll just take a small little percentage to get that boat sold for you there. But that's Bill Kramer GM and Kramer Marine and Outdoor. What you got, David?
The Chargers have zeroed in and sent an extremely strong offer to Harbaugh.
Ooh.
So there you go, man. We'll see if he ends up accepting that. Then that changes what we're about to talk about as well, right? Because not only is Michigan going to be losing their head man, but a little bit differently than how Alabama is losing everyone, Michigan's going to be sending a plethora of fellas to the NFL next year.
Yeah.
So that's, Donovan Edwards is coming back, but outside of that, Blake Corum, J.J. McCarthy, a litany of guys is headed to the NFL, and it's tough. It's tough to replace that. So, and if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm not even worried about that. I'm not even worried about what the future holds for Michigan right now because we got the job done.
Yeah,
and it's been a long time coming. Natty. You did it with Harbaugh, and you did it with a special group of young men who, instead of heading straight to the NFL last year, said, no, let's come back, let's get this thing done. And they fought against all odds and won the national championship and had a great game against Washington, but even more so with their backs against the wall when everyone said, including myself, oh, the schedule that you guys played isn't going to be strong enough. We haven't seen enough of you. They are down in the second half to Alabama, at one of the hotter teams in college football at that point in time, and still come away with the win, man. That was a very special season from the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there was a time, like you said, for some things to change, it's a lot easier to swallow that pill when you just hoisted the national championship trophy, that's for sure. But it's, there's not a lot of guys that can go between college and NFL and have success at both levels because there really hasn't been a whole lot of coaches. There has been a lot of college coaches that have tried their way in the NFL and just have not seen success. And Jim Harbaugh is a gentleman that's seen success on both sides of that. So it's always felt like he was going to be going back to the NFL. That's really where he, I don't know, wanted to be, but it just seemed to make sense for him that's his challenge that he wants. He got his national championship in college. Obviously, he played there at Michigan as well, but had a lot of success with the 49ers and almost had a Super Bowl that year against the Ravens in the Harbaugh Bowl that year. A couple mistakes there by the Niners, and we could see a Niners-Ravens Super Bowl again this year. And could be the same result. Hopefully not, but
the internet is going to go wild though if it's Baltimore. Because of that graphic, which, oh man, if I'm the NFL next year, I'm
getting colors that don't belong to any teams.
Because either you're telling on yourself. And if you're telling on yourself, I don't want nothing to do with that. Like I don't care. Like people can say whatever it is rigged or whatever. The minute that I know that it's rigged, I don't watch it. There's certain other sports out there that people love that are headed to Netflix that it's just not the same for me because it's like, yes, it is awesome what they do. I'm not taking anything away from that. But I'm not a big fan of plots on TV and all of that good stuff. So you know what I mean. I'll find better things to do in my time. And so for anyone out there, if we're ever having an issue where this becomes reality, I'm gonna need a new job.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, definitely. You're like, I'm out, no more. I just don't know how. Like, how can you, people in the conspiracy theorists on saying the NFL is scripted and all that stuff? There's so many. Like, even when I was watching, I think I was watching the last game, the Bills-Chiefs game, and I was like, it's enough for them to know how to run plays and what everybody's doing and all your assignments and all that stuff. It'd be another to have to follow some kind of script that you. And it's still humans doing human things. Like I get it. Like there's a lot of coincidences in life, that's for sure. But I just don't see how it could ever be scripted. And it's like this whole thing, that one news station that said that the halftime playing for the Niners Ravens Super Bowl. Anybody can put anything on some text. They could have said that about any of the 8 teams that were remaining at the time.
That could have been something that someone in the news station had taken a picture of, and it could have been something that they were recording to run on the day of after. Because guess what? There's 2 weeks of time in between when we find out which teams are playing in the Super Bowl and when the Super Bowl actually takes place. And if there was any type of, rigging or anything like that, it would be, and there's, I can't say for 100% certain that there's not, but it would be with the officiating and all of that stuff. So, but yeah, man, like because I would not want to watch a sport where it's like, well, these two guys are going to bring you the best storylines. Like, I don't care about that, because the best storyline for me is the teams who ain't supposed to win who end up winning.
Yep. No, absolutely, and that's what sports is based on. Sports is based on parity and not really knowing what's going to happen, and the chance that anybody can make something happen. I mean, we'll go back to Nick Dunlap, an amateur winning a PGA Tour event. I mean, you never know when those Cinderella stories are going to happen, and that was certainly one of them. But yeah, just pick like neon yellow well, not neon yellow, because I guess that could be the Seattle Seahawks, but just pick like pink and something else.
There we go. Then we'll have teams creating pink uniforms in the middle of the year.
Color Rush will have pink in it, that's for sure. But it's almost like no matter what colors you put out there, there's a chance that the teams that are in it could have those colors in their uniform.
Yeah, or what they could do is whenever they decide to come out with the Super Bowl graphic, take both the teams who are in last place, who look like they have no shot of making the playoffs, and base your color scheme off of those two teams.
No, absolutely.
But it's also the other thing that I point to, or that I think about. Yes, and it's a great point, and it's a lot of fun for these conversations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially with how the whole year ended with the NFL scripted and all of that good stuff. But a lot of these logos tie in with the theme of their cities. So
yeah, 100%.
I guess Las Vegas should have just been green.
Yeah.
Or gold.
Yeah. Or red for your negative bank account after you leave gambling in the city of Las Vegas. But man, what a spectacle that Super Bowl is going to be. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about maybe go through some of the conferences and see your thoughts on teams for the 12-team playoff next year. We'll start with the ACC. Obviously, the ACC is still pretty much the same, intact. I don't think anything can change between now and the start of next season. But two teams that you think might be moving out of the ACC potentially into that playoff. What do you think? Obviously, you got to throw Florida State in there.
Yeah, Florida State's going to be up there. However they answer the need at quarterback is going to be the most intriguing thing. But they've already answered that with DJU. But
Uyunga
Lele, there you go.
Good.
But the hype from the transfer portal, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like the hype, like
does
Oregon
that correlate to the field? Yeah,
exactly. And Oregon, he had a great year last year with Oregon State. It's going to magnify that Florida State Clemson game. The team that I'm going to watch out for, though, obviously Clemson.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with a 3-headed monster here, and Clemson is going to actually lead the way for me because of how Yes, there's been a huge chip placed into the shoulder of Florida State here. But with Clemson, hasn't been a lot of murmurs. And so if we don't get a lot of murmurs from them in the offseason, I think Clemson leads the way in the ACC. I think you'll have Florida State, those two teams playing for the ACC title game. I wouldn't pick a winner out of that right here without seeing seeing them play at all.
Yeah.
And then Louisville is a team who, last year really defied the odds overall. And then if they've had a good transfer portal class, and so they get that quarterback position shored up. I think Louisville could be a team that can make some waves in the ACC. Outside of that, I really don't see any outliers.
Yeah. Maybe NC State sneaking in there with Grayson McCall at the helm.
Why not?
Outside shot.
Why not? Why not?
That'd be fun. I'd be rooting for
I think when you start talking about 4 teams, though, that have a legitimate shot to win your conference, I mean, that's a good thing for the ACC. And then also, I don't think that you can – I think the team coming into the ACC that's going to have the best – I'm just really interested to see how SMU does in the ACC, because Stanford and California, they really don't do it for me. But I think SMU's got something to kind of prove here in taking that jump. So it might not be here in 2024, but I would expect SMU to, especially if Florida State and Clemson or one of those two teams end up leaving the ACC, SMU can do well in the transfer portal, and we'll see where that takes them.
Yeah, it opens up a huge door there, who've been very successful in that AAC the last several years. All right, going over to the Big 12. Obviously, you got Texas and Oklahoma going out. You've got Colorado. Who else is going in? Colorado. Anybody?
Big 12. So you got Colorado. You've got Arizona State.
Washington State?
No, Wazoo and Oregon State are
the remainers.
They're in the /Pac-2 Mountain West.
Yeah, they're limbo.
So Arizona State, Colorado. There's one other team out there hanging around that is heading into the 2024 Big 12. But you've got 2 big-time teams exiting in Texas and Oklahoma. So that leaves the door swinging wide open. Now, I think you got to go with your normal front runners. Obviously, it's going to be extremely... Utah, there you go. It's going to be extremely intriguing on this offseason what goes down with the Colorado Buffaloes, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. The first day of team meetings, Shiloh and Shadur, instead of being at the team meetings, are doing like a Louis Vuitton commercial or one of those whatever you call them, high brand stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they're doing that instead of the opening meeting. Like, I'm all for the NIL and stuff like that, but all right, that's like you having a team meeting and Liam is able-bodied and you know what I'm saying? Like, he's not sick or anything, but it's like he needed to go make some money.
Yeah.
No, man.
At the end of the day, you're there to play football.
Right, exactly. Yep. And you're there for
showing your team.
Exactly. And what does it also do? It puts this little divider between Shiloh and Shadur and everyone else, and that's a hard coach to play for. Yeah. It really is, man. So that's what I find tough about the situation. But if they end up finding or if they end up having a good transfer portal class, then maybe they could make some noise. For me, it's the Kansas States, the Oklahoma State. I think has a wide open run at it. They were in the Big 12 championship last year, and then my outlier is going to be Sonny Dykes with TCU.
Yeah,
they've had an opportunity to kind of reload there, so I would watch out for those 3 squads over there.
Yeah, no, it's man, it's just so crazy how different everything's going to be next year. It's just going to take a little while to get figured out. But
wait till we start talking about these things in basketball terms.
True.
We can't even, or I won't even say I can't even understand it as it is when we start getting deep into the automatic qualifiers and all of that good stuff. And now we've got all of this movement and everything. It's gonna take a couple years before. I feel like the SEC is just now getting used to within the last 3 to 5 years of Missouri and Texas A&M being like an official part of the SEC.
Yes, and now we're adding all these other teams and getting rid of the divisions.
Yeah.
Whew, yeah, crazy stuff. And that's why I think, it'll get figured out in a couple years, and then football will be completely separate and everything goes back to the way it was, just to make it easier on all these other teams. But yeah, speaking of that SEC, you were talking about Ole Miss, you were talking about Alabama, who obviously I think Georgia is still the odds-on front runner. They're not losing.
Georgia's more than likely going to win the whole shebang again next year.
Yeah. It's just they're not facing the same issues that a lot of these other teams certainly are. But who are some other names in there you think that could make the 12-team playoff that maybe wouldn't have had any chance in hell to get into that 14 playoff?
Well, a team like Missouri is going to be really interesting, right? What Drinkwitz was able to do with them this last year, and Brady Cook. So that's a team. The front runner for me obviously is Georgia, and then trailing behind. And I can't even say not too far behind, because it does seem like a pretty far distance between Georgia and Ole Miss. And in that same breath with Ole Miss, I'll throw Texas.
Yeah.
Because the ability for Texas to get it done in the big games, whereas Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss really haven't been able to get it done in the biggest of big games, right? So that's why I've got Ole Miss and Texas right there in that kind of second tier. Florida still, I want them to get everything going, and maybe this will be the year. It's just it's kind of like Arkansas, where it's like you can feel the hype, you know what I mean, you conjure up the hype, but then you just don't get it in reality. Tennessee, I think that a lot of these teams that think they're going to be benefiting are not going to benefit as much just because of the addition of Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And so
it's actually making it tougher for them.
To some extent, yeah. But then it is that 12-team playoff. It really just depends on how the other conferences are looking. Because if the Big Ten, if Michigan rather loses, honestly, the question comes down to, is the only teams outside of SEC and Big Ten teams going to be the ACC champion and the Big 12 champion? Because when you start going, Oregon's not going to fall off. Oregon's going to be better. Washington's going to fall off, so they won't be as big. Or I think that they're going to fall off.
Yeah.
You sit there and you're like, all right, Ohio State should be there. Michigan, I don't think that we can count them for sure in that, but that opens the door up for Penn State then to kind of weasel their way in. So Ohio State, Penn State right there, there's got to be a third Big Ten team. Then you'll more than likely see Georgia, Texas, and Ole Miss out of the SEC. So that's 6 teams. Then give me your G5 team. So that's 7 teams. So then you got 5 teams, outliers there, but I still could see your ACC champion. So let's say Florida State, Clemson, that takes us to 9.
Yep.
And then we'll go over to the Big 12. I'll say the champion will be Kansas State at this point. So that's 11. So really, who's going to be the best team outside of that? And I think that it's almost where you're going to dip into the SEC at that point and take whoever's the next best team.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it really seems like, Georgia, Ohio State are going to be the 2 big front runners, because I think what you were talking about with what's happened with Alabama and what will happen with Michigan is a very similar parallel between those 2 teams. Both losing their head coach, both Michigan losing a lot to the draft, Alabama losing a lot to the transfer portal, and then, Georgia and Ohio State just continuing to be the cream of the crop when it comes to those 2 conferences. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see if there's a surprise team that kind of comes out of quote unquote nowhere to make a run at that playoff, and then maybe gets into the playoffs and maybe pulls off an upset.
Yeah.
And then the proof of concept with this 12-team playoff goes in and says, okay, yeah, a 12-team can beat the 5th team, and throw some shockwaves in there and see what happens. But just eliminating these divisions in some of these conferences is going to be an interesting concept to get used to. That's for sure. That is for sure. But excited to talk. Coming up in the next segment here is going to be Brad Law. He's the Director of Broadcast Operations for the Auburn Sports Radio Network, and they've been having a lot of fun calling these Auburn basketball games as they are on quite the winning streak and have not lost a game yet in the SEC, and they'll see if they can get another one done tomorrow night over there in a tough place for them to play, and that's Tuscaloosa. We'll be right back with Brad Law. You're listening to the Inside Drive live here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Take ESPN Northwest Florida with you everywhere you go.
Anytime, any place, anywhere.
The sports talk and live play-by-play doesn't have to end when you get out of the car. The ESPN Northwest Florida app streams your favorite sports talk hosts and the biggest games in ultra-high fidelity.
This is of utmost importance in travel.
Take the sports talk monster with you anywhere you go. Available for Android and iPhone.
Use it anywhere or any place.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your weather forecast on this Tuesday. Sprinkling the rest of the day with a moderate breeze out of the east-southeast at 14 miles per hour and temps near 63. We will have slight fog and light sprinkles tonight and be quite warm at 61. And a mixture of slight fog and light showers tomorrow and a high 68. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
What's that grin about?
I just took a load off my staff by hiring Fresh Start Cleaning Services.
How'd you manage that?
Fresh Start Cleaning Services allows our team to leave at the end of their shift and not have to stay and clean after a double. They're happy, and you should see the difference having a professional cleaner makes. Plus, now I know exactly how much the cleaning cost will be for the year.
Wow, that would make anyone smile.
You can call Fresh Start Cleaning Services at 850-771-6057.
Call me old-fashioned, but back in my day, college football players actually wanted to play bowl games.
You're playing the biggest game for the university that you've played with for 4, potentially 5 years, and then, finish it out.
It's your school. Where does the loyalty and the pride go?
You're inside the Bill Kramer Chevrolet Buick GMC and Kramer Marine and Outdoors Studios with Ryan Mulvey and Jay Henley on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is how we do it.
And welcome back. You're listening to the Inside Drive live here on ESPN Northwest Florida. One of my favorite times every couple weeks is when we're joined on the line by Brad Law. He's the Director of Broadcast Operations up there for the Auburn Sports Radio Network. And we are your home for Auburn basketball here in the Panhandle on ESPN Northwest Florida. Brad, how are you doing on this a little bit warmer Tuesday than it's been?
What he means, everybody, is I give really long answers. So that's that's always a plus. No, I appreciate it. I look forward to the time too. We're doing well. You guys have one coming up on the air tomorrow night. We have the most anticipated Auburn-Alabama basketball game in at least the last decade, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, this thing is going to be a rock fight, and we're really, really looking forward to bringing you the coverage of this game.
Yeah, no, it was going to be one of my questions on this big game coming up tomorrow night. Auburn trying to stay undefeated in the SEC, trying to bring it to what, 12 straight victories? They're running on 11 after that victory over Ole Miss. And, man, they have been dominant in these performances as well. I was watching that Ole Miss game on Saturday, bouncing back and forth between the NFL and that game. And they just seem to have not slowed down at all yet in these big matchups.
Yeah, and I think you can do that when you have 11 guys who play and they're not just in there to eat minutes. Like, they're effective. Auburn has effective depth on their team. And so it is kind of like you don't have to run at a sprint to run your marathon. You don't have to run it at sprinter's pace. You can run it at a marathoner's pace. Or you can you know, or it's like a relay. That's, you know what, it's a better description to call it a relay race. Because you run your leg of the relay as fast as you can and hand the baton off. And this team is doing that. Guys are in for 3 and 4 minute segments, and then the second wave comes in, and that group runs hard for 3 or 4 minutes, and then the first group is back in, and I think it affects everything. It affects their offense, it affects their defense, it affects how sharp they are mentally, and it certainly makes a difference when you get down to the final 5 and 6 minutes of games when, you know, somebody else may have been on the floor for 30 minutes already, and you may have been on the floor for 16.
Yeah,
that matters.
And there's no, and you said it a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the run that they were on. There's no drop off in production, both offensively and defensively, regardless of what lineup is in there. And Jalen Williams just seems like not that he, you know, had a good year last year, and really last year was the first year he really started rocking and rolling. But he just seems to be like a man on fire right now for this Auburn Tigers team, and he's just bringing a lot to the table, in addition to Johnny Broome leading the team in points per game.
Yeah, Jalen is, you know, everybody loved the news when Jalen came back, but we sort of wondered, and it's not a knock on him, but like, is it going to be the same Jalen that we've seen for the last 4 years, which is flashes of a guy who could take over any game that he wanted to. Jalen could win a one-on-one matchup, get open in the lane, and hit the little left-handed jump hook. He could do that 8 times a game if he wanted to. And something happened for him in the game in Atlanta against Indiana. He told us that, you know, that morning he wasn't really feeling it. He kind of, but something clicked for him on the floor, and he had a great game. Well, 5 of his last 10 games now, including that one, he scored 20-plus points. His shooting percentage over that span is above 70. And he's not just, you know, these aren't just layups and dunks. Some of these are threes, and he can play offense and defense on the perimeter and in the post. And he's rebounding, he's creating turnovers, he's scoring. He is putting up SEC Player of the Year type numbers, but he's only playing 22, 23, 24 minutes a game because of the depth. So no Auburn play. You know, if Auburn went undefeated this year in conference play, which is not going to happen, nobody's going to do that. But even if they did that, I don't think an Auburn player would win SEC Player of the Year, because they really are, you know, they're one sort of, they're one mechanism, they're one team.
Yeah, it's not just one player out there driving this bus for this team and so successful. I mean, you got multiple guys out there that are shooting over 50% from the field, and just you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're not having to do it. Whereas some of you know, 2 or 3 years ago when they had their runs in the tournament, some of these other Bruce Pearl teams, they really lived or died by the 3 ball. They're not having to do that as much this year, it seems, and I think that's really benefiting them, putting some of these teams away.
Yeah, no question. Even the Walker Kessler, Jabari Smith, those guys who are post players or could play, you know, Walker's a post player, Jabari can play anywhere, Jabari's special. But even those teams would rely on the 3 a little too much in games. And Auburn's 3-point shots attempted as a percentage of their total field goals attempted, it's lower this year than it's been in the past. And that's because you got guys like Chad Baker-Mazara that can finish around the rim, Jalen Williams who can finish around the rim. Auburn's also making the extra pass way more often this year. I noticed it at least 3-4 times against Ole Miss. You get these mid-lane possessions, and the offense runs through the middle of the lane, and a guy goes up. And instead of looking to score, he's looking for the defender to crash down on him and then dump it off to the block where a guy's wide open for a dunk.
Yep.
And so when you can get that look, and you will get that look, when you're willing to pass the ball and trade a really good shot, a really high percentage shot, for an even greater shot, an even higher percentage shot, like a layup or a dunk, then that's terrific. Like I think 17 of Auburn's field goals, or some crazy number like that, against Ole Miss were layups or dunks. So they're looking to get it to the rim more than some of these 3-point shooting teams that Bruce has had in the past.
Yeah, definitely. And you're seeing that correlate to some serious success on the hardwood there. Before we jump into these two games they got coming up on the road, Alabama and Mississippi State, what do you think stands in the way of Auburn and a SEC, regular season title, potentially a tournament title, and a good seeding in the NCAA tournament? What do you see as Auburn's biggest hurdle to have a great rest of the season here?
It's a really good question, and it's hard for me to answer that question without sounding even more like a homer than I usually do when I come on here. But I think this is Bruce's best team. You could look at the team with Walker and Jabari and go, that team could be special, and they're probably going to contend for the SEC championship.
Yeah,
you thought there was too much star power, and you knew that in a close game, you could give the ball to Jabari and feel confident that he could make a shot. Or you felt confident that team could make a stop defensively. This team isn't going to go undefeated in conference play, so somewhere along the line they will flip up.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, though, that I think that the first loss or second loss threatens this team's ability to win the SEC outright. I think they're the deepest team. I think they are the top 10, the top 10 in both offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency. As like one of two teams in the country that's in the top 10 in both, Auburn and Arizona. I don't see anything at the moment, barring like a rash of injuries, not one injury, but a rash of injuries.
Several, yeah.
I don't see anything that threatens this. Now, individual games are different. Mm-hmm. I think we still have to find out, because Auburn's won all these games in a row by double digits. They haven't been threatened in the last 4 minutes of a ball game since the early December.
Yeah, they haven't had to come from behind, and they've been finishing games when they're out ahead instead of having to fight and come back and win games, and that's a whole different mentality.
Exactly. So how do they respond if they get into that situation? I didn't think they'd lead Ole Miss by 19. They led Vanderbilt by 17 at the half a week ago. I thought there's no way they'll lead Ole Miss by 17 at the half, even at home. And they led by 19 at the half. I didn't expect that. They continue to ramp things up, and I expect them to ramp things up tomorrow night in Tuscaloosa. But again, individual games, to get back to that point, who's the guy that takes the shot?
Yeah.
Is it Jalen? Can you work through Janai? Is there a guard? Do you trust Aiden Holloway, the true freshman, to make that shot? Do you trust Denver Jones, who's the Conference USA leading scorer a year ago, but hasn't had to score big for Auburn this year? Who do you put in that position when the game is on the line and you're down one or tied and you have the last shot? You still have to answer that question, but that's a different question than what do I think threatens Auburn. I think Auburn should be the favorite to win the SEC regular season and make a run in the SEC tournament as well at this point.
And what do you think? Why do you think Bruce Pearl's been so successful building this particular team? In this day and age with NIL and the transfer portal, obviously they've been a beneficiary of the transfer portal, but they haven't, it hasn't been a detractor either, where they've been losing a lot of these big time guys. Why do you think he's been so successful building such a deep roster, especially this season?
Yeah, it's tricky, and every year is different. It's a brand new puzzle that you're trying to fit the pieces together. Because you look at Arkansas right now. Eric Musselman has had years where he put together transfer portal teams really well, and they excelled when March rolled around. This team is really interesting to me, because you have the true freshman point guard in Aiden Holloway, who's a 5-star prospect and about the second or third highest rated recruit Auburn's ever had, and he's terrific. Behind him, you have Trey Donaldson, who bought into staying and coming off the bench and playing 17 or 18 minutes a game. But he's one of the best leaders on the team despite not being a starter.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of culture. How do you create that culture, which is your question?
Yeah.
And he's been honest with guys. He was honest with them. He told Denver Jones, you scored 20 points a game at FIU. You're not going to do that. You're not going to get 17, 18 shots a game. But you can come here and compete in the SEC, and we'll work on your defense, and you become a lockdown defender, and you'll be a vital part of a team that plays for something special and makes history, and you improve your value at the professional level by enhancing your game in these ways. Same thing with like a Chad Baker-Mazara. He's been to JUCO. He's been to a couple of different spots before this. And he was honest with it. He said, hey, you're probably going to come off the bench. You're probably not going to start.
Yep.
You're probably going to play about 16, 17, 18 minutes a game. Your role is going to be X, Y, Z. And these guys know when they come to Auburn, they're going to be developed. They're going to play in front of the most passionate home court advantage in college basketball. And that's not just Auburn guys saying it. That's everybody nationally having the same opinion. And they know they're going to have an opportunity to compete for something that is bigger than them and make history. And I think it starts with just being honest and up front and saying these are the expectations. If that sounds like something you want to be a part of, then you come be a part of this team. If you don't want that, if you want to go get 17 shots and average 20 points a game, that's great. We'll wish you well. You're just not going to do it here.
Yeah.
And you have a whole bunch of people who have bought into that and have embraced their roles, and it's something to watch.
It's and in this day and age, the way college athletics are, and to be kudos to Bruce Pearl to be able to still drive culture and, like you said, get all these kids to buy in and understand their roles and know that it's something bigger than just them playing the sport. That's just, it's almost refreshing to hear and see that kind of stuff because of how wild the college athletics is now with the individuality and personal success over team success in a lot of circumstances.
And I will say this, Ryan, it's not like completely altruistic. Like there is NIL is a factor, and guys are able to maximize their name, image, and likeness now. And so, if you have the opportunity to go someplace and earn NIL money and not wear your body out playing 38 minutes a ball game, and oh, by the way, you can compete for a championship and play in front of this environment and compete in the SEC and all of these things, and you're not worried about constantly. Like a guy who I completely understand. 10 years ago, I'm going to transfer. I need to score 20 points a game to enhance my brand so I can go to the NBA and make as much money as I can to provide for my family. Totally understand that. Different game now. These guys can do that in college.
Yep.
And I think it makes it a little bit easier to embrace a role that's not as high profile as one you might have needed 10 years ago.
Yeah, because of your opportunities now that you have at the collegiate level versus trying to build up to that opportunity in the NBA. Let me ask you a quick question before I ask you about this Alabama game coming up tomorrow night. What do you think about Nick Dunlap over there from Alabama winning a PGA Tour event? Wasn't that pretty awesome?
That's good for him. No, he's fantastic. Those guys, I marvel at all those guys who play professionally and or those who play amateur and win professional events. It's pretty remarkable. I don't think he's been an amateur for long. I think they're meeting today to decide whether he's going to continue on the Alabama team or go ahead and jump in fully to the pro life. So, no, anybody who can win a tournament like that under those conditions, I've got a lot of respect for them.
It just shows how much talent there is at the collegiate golf level, that is for sure. But
tremendous.
Wild. But yeah, speaking of Alabama, big one, a place that's been tough for Auburn to play in recent years, and that's traveling over there to Tuscaloosa. And, they're going to get Alabama's best. And Alabama wouldn't want to do anything more than beat Auburn in this big matchup, especially with Auburn being ranked number 8 now in the country. A quick ascend to the top 10 after being unranked a few weeks ago, going to 25 to 13 to now to 8. What's the key for Auburn to win this game against the Alabama Crimson Tide?
Gotta answer defensively for the number 1 scoring efficiency team in college basketball. Alabama is number 1 in scoring efficiency. I mentioned before that Auburn is top 10 in scoring efficiency and defensive efficiency. Alabama is number 1 in scoring efficiency. Now, they're in the 60s in defenses, so I think the points will be there for Auburn. How do you handle Mark Sears?
Yep.
How do you handle Aaron Estrada? How do you handle some of their down-the-line guys that are shooting 43% and better from 3? They got a couple of guys that don't average that many points a game, but they're knocking down almost half of the three-point shots. The games that Alabama has won there in the past, particularly under this head coach, they shoot a ton of threes. And we know sometimes the home gym is more friendly for the home team shooting than visiting gyms. It's understandable. It's the way it works. Benefits of being at home. So if they come out and knock down 16, 17 threes, Auburn could be in trouble. But I did a study earlier today. I did a little comparison, and these 5 SEC games so far for Auburn, they have limited the top 2 scorers from the other team to about 10 points a game below, 10 to 11 points below what those guys average.
Wow.
In other words, the top 2 scorers on the opposing teams that Auburn has faced so far have averaged about 31 points a game between them. And Auburn has limited those duos to about 20 points a game. So to do that, you got to limit Sears, who averages 20. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers out, but Sears and Estrada together average 33 points a game. If Auburn could find a way to hold those 2 guys down to around 22, 23, I like Auburn's chances.
Yeah, make it a lot easier to win that game. That's for sure, and that's an impressive stat there on what they've been able to do in conference play thus far. And but like you said, they're top. Would you say top 5 in both offensive or top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency, which is pretty impressive. But it'll be right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Auburn trying to make it 12 wins in a row and stay undefeated in SEC play in the quote-unquote Iron Bowl of college basketball. Should be a fun one. Brad, appreciate your time every couple Tuesdays. Always good to jump on the line with you and talk some Auburn basketball, and look forward to hopefully talking to you in a couple weeks, and maybe Auburn will stay undefeated in that conference play. Appreciate your time as always, Brad.
Always a pleasure, Ryan. Thank you, and War Eagle to all the Auburn fans on the coast.
Absolutely. War Eagle, that was Brad Law with the Auburn Sports Radio Network. We'll be back with our final segment of this Tuesday at the other side of the break.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
I went up the mountains and I tried that out. I lived off the land for about 3 or 4 days in that cold weather, and I decided to come on back down to Panama City Beach and do radio.
Not having done that before, you don't know that you can do that. You hope you can do it. You think you can. But I think the resources are in place. I think the people are in place.
Weekday morning 7 to 9. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Hi folks, I'm Tracy from Tracy's Fine Jewelry. Love is in the air at Tracy's Fine Jewelry, and what better way to celebrate love than with a beautiful piece of jewelry? Our Valentine collection combines the most popular trends and top sellers with the largest selection at the best prices. From exquisite fine jewelry to our most trendy and affordable sterling silver pieces, we're sure to have the perfect gift to melt her heart. Folks have trusted us for 50 years to make their Valentine sparkle. This year, make it sparkle even more with a gift from Tracy's Fine Jewelry.
Everyone makes New Year's resolutions. However, most folks seldom fulfill those resolutions. This new year, one of your #1 resolutions should be a visit to That Boot Store. And be sure you follow through, or you'll miss out on the tremendous savings on one of the largest selections of Western wear and work clothes in the area. That Boot Store open Tuesday through Thursday, 9 till 5. Friday and Saturday, 9 till 5:30. That Boot Store next to Bill Bird Kia, 15th Street in Panama City. Remember, God is good all the time.
Visit the newly remodeled Mid-South Lumber Hardware and Feed Store in Youngstown. They have a full line of plumbing, electrical, hardware, and tools for your DIY home projects, as well as lumber and animal feed. Now offering not only baby chicks and a full line of poultry supplies, but also bunnies and parakeets. They also carry a wide selection of Duplin wines and gourmet products, so you don't have to drive to the beach. Come see us at Mid-South Lumber on Highway 231 in Youngstown.
For the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey and Jay Henley.
This man is destroying golf.
Broadcasting live from the Bill Kramer Chevrolet Buick GMC and Kramer Marine and Outdoor Studios.
You may be right, but our ratings are up and we're attracting new youthful sponsors.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome back. back. You're listening to the Inside Drive live here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Liam, if you're at school and you're listening to the radio, you would have loved the intro one on that one. But little MJ bringing us in here in the last segment. I think we talked about it yesterday. I was talking, the last time the Detroit Lions were in the NFC Championship, the world was certainly a different place. 32 years, in fact, and a couple other little fun facts about it. iPods did not exist the last time that the Detroit Lions were in the NFC Championship.
How many years ago did you say?
32 years ago.
I was around before iPods then.
There you go. Yes, you got a victory there. Text messaging obviously wasn't invented yet either. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, they were all not born yet the last time the Lions were in the NFC Championship.
That's ridiculous.
Just crazy.
The whole team wasn't born.
Yeah, basically the entire football team wasn't even around yet. And, now they got an opportunity to make some history. Amazon, Google, MySpace, Facebook, none of those social media sites or search engines existed yet. PlayStation and Xbox had not been invented yet.
That's wild.
Yeah.
They're just old Nintendo.
Yeah,
then, huh?
I don't even know if 64 was around, because that would have been, 92? Yeah, because Nintendo 64 would have been, late 90s-ish?
I guess so. My first console was the, regular NES or whatever, and I probably got that from my cousins when the PS2 was coming out.
Yep.
So I was behind the times.
Yeah, well, hey, but if you never had it, then it's new
That's
to
true.
you.
That is true. And we were talking about a great game yesterday, one of the ones I grew up on. The Duck Hunter game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I never had regular Nintendo. I had friends that had regular Nintendo. Mm-hmm. My first console was Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I remember getting that one of the last Christmases before we left the fine state of California, when it was the fine state back in the day. BlackBerry was still 8 years away of being made the last time the Lions were in there. Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, if I said that correctly. Antetokounmpo. And Nikola Jokic were not born yet either. The last time it just shows how old we're getting.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
It does, man. MVP winners not even born yet.
Not even born yet last time the Lions were in there. But they're back in there again. And Dan Campbell, last but not least, was still in high school the last time the Lions were in the NFC Championship.
I like that. That's all really good information. What fan base hurts more after they lose? Right? So Bills, we've already experienced that one, right? And we saw, and I don't know if there is a worse way for the Buffalo Bills to go down rather than a wide right like that. But the Lions, with all of this, and that their fans are thinking about this, and a lot of the fans who might be, my age, your age, or whatever, really, even though they experience some of these things, don't necessarily understand it, but then you've got the older fans who really lived life way before this and through this. I wonder who takes it harder. You know what I mean?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I would my mind would tell me that it would be the people that have been around longer, that have been.
Well, I guess I'm saying for Lions and Bills, or Lions or Bills. Lions or Bills.
Which fan base would take it harder?
Yeah. Like if the Lions were to lose this weekend, now you have the argument of, all right, the Lions made it further into the playoffs.
Yeah.
The reason I would say that it would be the Bills is because not only is it the wide right representation of what happened to you in the 90s, but even furthermore is you've been a team that's been on the precipice in reality of being a Super Bowl legitimate contender and then not getting it done, where this is all, there was expectations for the Lions this year, but they're actually living to those expectations.
2-3 years ago, they were 4-12.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that many years ago when they didn't win a game for the entire
Dan Campbell
season.
was on that team.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So let's hire a guy from our worst season of all time.
Yeah, and look at him now. Maybe that's how it works. But I would agree with you. I think it'd be a lot tougher to be a Bills fan, especially the Bills. What we say, it was 4 straight Super Bowls in a row.
Super Bowls,
I mean, you would think that just the odds alone, you would win one of those.
Something's got to bounce your way.
You can't just get bad luck all the time. And then they've they've lost to what? The Chiefs, the last 3 outs to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They've lost to the Chiefs. They got Josh Allen. They're doing this new stadium. Like, you got all this stuff happening. The DeMar Hamlin thing happened last year.
Great fake punt, by the way.
Yeah. Man, I still don't.
Yeah, like, we're like,
I get it. You had one less person on the field. Yeah, it's not like they had 6 people out there. They had 10, not 11.
And luckily, that didn't even end up hurting them, though, because of the fumble through the end zone.
And that's the thing, too. If that doesn't happen, this game, it's not even close.
No.
It's over then after that decision. And then Sean McDermott looks even more like an idiot making that call. And I get it. It's the last game of the season, potentially. You can't hold anything back, like Brent Musburger said in The Waterboy. But that couldn't have been the right decision, right?
No, well, a lot of teams are just wanting to go off of analytics. It's very similar to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers
they
going
just
for 2 right there.
Completely take thought out of it and just say, this is what the numbers say to do. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think that your analyzation in the regular season has to be a lot different than what it is come the playoffs. Now, when they went for it later on in the game, 4th and 3, that's the right area of the field to do that.
Yeah.
But if you still have your full complement of timeouts, you've got to trust your defense there because they helped get you to this point.
Yeah.
So let's not just throw our season away on a fake punt.
Run a regular play.
I mean, what were you trying to do?
With DeMar Hamlin.
It's not even, the comeback player of the year is a regular season award. Anyways, bro, you're not going to win him that award I just, and that's no shade at all to DeMar Hamlin.
No, but I know what you mean,
Why that play? If you're going to do that,
if you're going to do that, just run a regular play.
Just do it. Yeah.
Don't run a fake punt.
Just a bad area of the field to do that. They lucked out. They lucked out tremendously. Great defensive prowess there to knock the ball out right ahead of the goal line because, I mean, how close was he to being down?
Oh, like within a couple millimeters, it seemed like. His hip was, I mean, they could have called that either way.
They could have.
You could see the ball starting to move, and I think that's what caused it. And, for the Chiefs to run that little, trick, it kind of was a trick play. With the like kind of pitch end around thing.
They did a good job with that motion too.
Yep,
they did. And then another thing, what was up with the referees in this divisional round? Like they were terrible with ball spots. I can think of like 4 to 6 times in my head where it's like, whoa, where the heck are you spotting that? Like you're supposed to, you're supposed to put it where he's down at, man.
Yep, exactly. Sometimes I feel like the referees, knowing that stuff gets reviewed and there's replays and stuff, that they're maybe not as careful as they could be, for lack of a better term. What do you think about that rule? The offense fumbles into the end zone and it goes out. It's a touchback.
What would be the opposite of that?
I don't know, but I know that it's become a discussion now that they're talking about potentially changing that. But I think it's a fantastic rule. It makes perfect sense in my mind. If you offensively fumble the ball, you shouldn't get the ball back.
Yeah, heck no.
It should be the other team's ball. Where else would you put it besides a touchback?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. I mean, what are we just we might as well just line the offense up on the 1 yard line and say, hey, cross the goal line real quick, and we're going to put the ball eliminate 99 yards of playing because we're giving everything into the favor of the offense here. The defense has nothing left. No, I don't want to see that rule change. That's exactly how it should be, and it creates those momentum shifts. Otherwise, teams are going to just start. If they change the rule, or if you fumble into the end zone, if you fumble and it goes out of the end zone, but you retain possession, let's say you lose 5 yards or whatever. Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to start getting up there and just chunking the ball out of the end zone at that point if I feel like I'm about to fumble.
Yeah.
And then we'll just continue to inch our way down. I don't.
NFL, leave it.
Yeah.
Leave it. It's a good rule. It's one of the rules that's actually good. But yeah, getting back to what you were originally saying there. Yeah, I think the Lions are, yes, they've been waiting a long time. We started this segment talking about how different it was 32 years ago than it is now, but they haven't been super close a bunch of times. And the Bills have been super close a lot of times, especially in recent years. So I think, it shows how hard it is to get to these championship games as an NFL team. And it really seems like the last 10 years you've seen a lot of repeat. Obviously the Patriots for a long time in the AFC.
And now the Chiefs.
Yeah, and now the Chiefs are doing it. I mean, the Packers have been in the NFC Championship a bunch. The Niners have been in the NFC Championship 4 out of the last 5 years. The Eagles have been making. So you're seeing a lot of the same team. The Bucks had a good little run there where they've been doing good. So, yeah, it's not easy to get there. And, you got to embrace the opportunity while you're there. And hopefully the Niners can knock the Lions out of the playoffs. And people can stop talking trash about Brock.
Well, that's what's so special about winning the Super Bowl. I mean, even more so special for the teams who can do it on the continual basis, even if it's nothing, even if it's just representing the AFC in the Super Bowl or being in the AFC Championship game every time, or like Tom Brady felt like every other year. And so, and what's for me, the fatigue really hasn't started to set in necessarily for Patrick Mahomes. Like for me, as the rooting against necessarily, it's getting to that point. But because we have so many good quarterbacks in the AFC, it's just one of those that I'm just impressed. And maybe because the predecessor, not the Chiefs quarterback, but talking about Tom Brady and how for so long, up until that Super Bowl against the Falcons, like I just hated him. And not in a I hate Tom Brady.
No, you're tired of the same people winning over and over again.
Right, exactly. Rooting against. And then after that, it was like you just have to pull yourself back from it and be like, you can hate on it, but at the end of the day, what he's doing is what they were doing, what the Patriots were doing was extremely impressive.
Yes, and Patrick Mahomes has certainly taken that torch and run with it. And and you were talking about the fatigue of getting there over and over again. I think it's 6 straight AFC championships. But you get to a point, if you keep making it, you're like, well, I don't want to lose this streak.
Yeah,
I want to keep making this happen and kind of stick my nose up at everybody and say nana nana boo boo. While we keep making it the AFC championship, you thought we weren't going to. But it's going to be interesting to see if those Baltimore Ravens can stop that magical Chiefs run.
It is, man, because if the 49ers end up taking down the Lions and then the Chiefs hang in, that was the Super Bowl that I called at the beginning. But I still got to ride off of that one, though. I think Baltimore is going to be too much to handle for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, especially when it comes to that defensive front. And then it's also going to be interesting with the Buffalo Bills. There wasn't the play action that the Ravens bring is more lethal, in my opinion, than what the Buffalo Bills bring to the table, especially with the different type of running styles that you have between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen.
Yeah. No, and Chris Paul just said, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, he said, Baltimore loses to the Chiefs. There's no denying that the Chiefs are a dynasty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
100% in agreement with that. Yeah, it should be a good game. And the difference between maybe the Ravens and the Bills, too, is the mental side of things, I think, really matters in these football games. Oh, man, it's 12:57, just like that. And all I was going to say is, it's almost like the Chiefs knew they could beat the Bills because they have, and they kind of have that against them. And this Baltimore Chiefs matchup isn't as common as a matchup that's been happening in the last, 10 years. So.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to see Lamar, like one of the better quarterbacks in the league, going up against the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no doubt about it there. We appreciate you guys tuning into the Inside Drive today, Tuesday, January 23rd. Afternoon Underdogs coming up at 4 p.m. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with Jay at 11 o'clock. Y'all have a great rest of your day.
The PCB Hobby Takeover with Todd. Mondays at 5:20 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
That is a very high-end card and very rare.
Todd talks about coins, trading cards, collectibles, and the amazing stories behind them.
It was the first one that's ever come through my door.